I am so excited to talk about today reinventing your life, because I believe life is nothing more than a vicious cycle of reinvention of self. So instead of fear the change, see how you can catalyze the process. How can we catalyze the process of reinvention? So today, during my session, we're going to talk about reevaluation in order to reinvent yourself. Okay, so first things first, why do we crave reinvention so much? I personally believe it's because we get bored quickly. I get bored of life. Variety. Yes, Mark, that's my love language. I need variety in life. And I firmly believe that many of us have multiple lives that we're meant to live, but we've been stuck in the same one for the last 30 years, the last 40 years, living the same life, nothing to strive for, okay? So I'm going to talk about reinvention, and whatever reinvention means for you. That could be reinventing your career, reinventing your health, reinventing your relationship, both with your partner and yourself, reinventing your identity, reinventing your vision. Okay, so every year I go on a journey of reinventing my identity to help me refocus my life, because I think the most dangerous place to be is directionless. So when I reinvent my identity, I get direction of myself. So a lot of you might know, I traveled, over 80 countries, over 90 countries now, and every country gave me a new lens in which to see myself. So I'm going to quickly share my screen because you see this side by side. I took a train to Romania once, and I was assumed to be Serena Williams. Of course, you can see some similarities here. This is around 2018. And it's so funny. There were so many people that loved Serena, like, oh my God, Serena Williams, can I get your autograph? I love you. You're amazing. And as much as I wanted to own that, because come on, those are great compliments, I had to constantly deny that I was her through Montenegro, through Romania, through Croatia, through Bulgaria. I was traveling through Eastern Europe, and I was constantly mistaken as Serena Williams. And it was in that moment I was like, okay, I can deny being her, but I could be Serena adjacent. What does that mean? I want each of you to think of a role model in your life, someone that you embody their personality, maybe you might even look like, or someone you just admire. And I want you to think of being that person adjacent. So being Serena adjacent in those 3 months that I was in the Balkan countries, I learned to walk with more pride. I was like, people are going to assume I'm Serena anyways, so let me embody Serena adjacent. I walked with more pride. I spoke to more strangers, and I stayed out longer because it meant more people recognized who I was, how amazing my tennis career was. I learned to become Serena adjacent. So I reinvented myself through the identity of being someone else. And here's the thing that's going to really stick with you. You're not that person, of course. I don't want you to mimic being them, but their personality, their traits, what people love about them and what draws people to them. After you become Serena adjacent, again, create your character adjacent, I want you to unpack, did I like how that felt? Because again, being Serena adjacent meant I walked with more pride. It meant I spoke to more strangers. It meant I stayed out longer because more people recognized who I was and, complimented me on my career. So did I like how that felt? Is this in alignment with my values? And then how does this, being Serena adjacent, translate into other areas? Because here's the truth. It is okay to get bored with yourself and your life. And if you need to create a character and be adjacent for a season or a moment or a month, that's okay. Because reinvention is just a matter of asking yourself, what are you most passionate about right now? And how can you start a movement around that? The first area to reevaluate in order to reinvent is your motivation. I want you to ask yourself these questions. What fuels me? What inherently fuels me? What protects me? What makes me feel safe in my body? What makes me feel safe in my career? What makes me feel safe in my industry? And then what guides me? If you are trying to reinvent yourself, you have to reevaluate who you've been following, what's been inspiring you, what makes you feel safe and protected. A lot of times, whenever I look at my past, And we might be motivated by vanity metrics or monetary gain. And here's the thing, it's okay to be motivated by money. I think everyone, if you're a human, I think it's just in your blood. You're a little intrinsically motivated by money because money is the gateway to the freedom, to the success, to, other things in life. It's not money itself because that's just paper, but money leads to other things. So what is your motivation? When I'm reinventing myself, I look at what are the things that have been guiding me and how can I change that? What are the things that have been fueling me? Number one, again, we're family here, so we're gonna get honest. What fueled me in the past, maybe too much alcohol, maybe a little extra glasses of wine. You only needed one glow, but what fueled me is just maybe the bottle. But that can't be my future self. I'm trying to reinvent who I am. I'm trying to become a new person. So what fuels me now is water. Literally, as Brendan was doing his intro, I filled up a whole glass of water while I was doing the pre-meetup before we all let you in the room. I finished another glass and had to go get another one. I'm so fueled by water now. And what's great about this is it's a healthier option. Like it allows me to really just feel like I'm having a healthier habit. So that's the first one, okay? Motivation. Number two, your movement. How am I staying healthy? Questions to ask yourself about your movement. How am I staying healthy? Where can I improve? And who can hold me accountable? So in my past self, my previous 2022 version of Glow, how I was staying healthy, I wasn't. I was working out when I felt like it, and maybe when a dumbbell happened to be in my hand already. I had no workout routine. I had no regimen. It was kind of like if someone's forcing me to do it, I'll do it. But it wasn't something I actively pursued. And so joining a program that I did with our little group from Napa Valley, 75 Hard, definitely look into it. It's not for everyone, but the program is called 75 Hard for anyone interested. And that was super helpful because it allowed me to see all the areas of my health that I can improve. And then who can hold me accountable? You have to find people in your next level of yourself as you're reinventing. You have to find the person that's already there or on their way there. Because a lot of times you look to your left and right, those are the people that might have gotten you to that level, but they might stop at this level. And I've shared this analogy in the past, but I'll share it again for anyone new. But you might be walking onto an elevator and immediately you know that you're clicking the penthouse. You click the penthouse button, you're going straight to the top. Your friend gets on and they click floor 9. You might have an incredible conversation, an incredible chat, but when floor 9 comes, your friend has already decided that that's their limit. So your friend gets off at floor 9. There's no love lost. There's no hard feelings. There's no animosity. It's just that's where your friend decided they would stop. Now, they might feel bitter or envious that you're staying on the elevator, but you've already chosen that you're going to the penthouse, and that is okay. So you're going to have a lot of people in your life you've already passed floor 9 and they've gotten off. And I need you to recognize that it's okay to stay on that elevator. It's okay to keep going. You had a mission and a vision that the penthouse is where you belong. And it's okay to chill at the penthouse floor, okay? The penthouse is where it's at. I'm not speaking from the penthouse, but because I'm still on my journey. So that's super important about accountability. Understanding that the people that got you here won't always get you there. And that's okay. What I started doing in my network is saying, okay, how can I take all the most brilliant podcasters that I know, all the most brilliant musicians, all the most brilliant lawyers, all the most brilliant content creators, all the most brilliant videographers, and I inserted myself into like mini masterminds in all of those spaces. Because you know what's great? Because I can be a little bit of each of those, I have something to also contribute. And instead of just being like another, I guess, blogger in the blogging space, I became the content creator in the creative space or the travel person in the videographer space. So the more hats and the more skills you develop, the more valuable you are, the more resourceful you become, and the more people want to be around you and hold you accountable to your next level. Okay? So second place to reevaluate is your movement. 5 ways that you can build confidence. The first thing, affirming activities. I love Jay Shetty because he said this quote. He said, every year he's always learning, loving, and launching something. You always need to be learning, loving, and launching. When you are learning something, it's a humbling place to be. You're not going to be good at it. You're going to be a beginner, and it's not going to be confidence boosting. But when you are loving and launching something, you're in alignment, you're walking in purpose. So at every point in your life, you should be learning, loving, and launching. So what are those affirming activities that you're doing to remind you of how far you've come? Okay. So the first one, affirming activities. The second thing, affirming friends. Affirming friends. Guys, insecurity and confidence don't speak the same language. Get new friends. I had friends that used to project their insecurities on me. They would like shame me for having habits, but every day you should have an alarm, or you should set an alarm that has 3 words that remind you of yourself. Or for me, I also like to do things that are like affirmations. So I'm like, I like to tell myself daily, like, this is all a part of God's plan. This is God, you're building God's kingdom. That's something I tell myself daily. So when I see that, little notification come on my phone, it gets me re-excited. And a friend tried to shame me for having that like habit. And I was like, man, what is it like to be so insecure with yourself that you shame someone for like wanting to like walk in alignment? I was like, I don't need you in my life. Yeah, have affirming friends, people who are also building legacies, people who also understand that life is temporary and what you build is the only thing that lasts forever. Like, how many of you guys have picked up a book that's 200 years old? How insane is that? 200 years ago, someone wrote a book not knowing that 200 years later, Glow would come walking through and find it in a used bookstore. How cool is that? You do not know how far your story is going to reach, okay? So number 1, affirming activities. Number 2, affirming friends. Number 3, affirming documentation. I record time lapses. I watch the sunrise every single day. There are so many things that I do every single day that remind me of like, oh, I'm building something. And I like to look back on those time lapses like, oh, I remember when I was launching that. Affirming documentation. When you're recording yourself on video because you want to share it on Instagram, or maybe you don't share it, but just having it so that you can look back on it to remind yourself of like, oh, I remember that season of my life when I was getting ready to launch my podcast and I recorded a video of it. Anytime I'm feeling really vulnerable or in a season of like change or transition, I like to have these like video diaries where I'm like, all right, the day is, March 7th, quarantine day 385. And here's how I feel. And here's what I'm doing. But I love to document those small everyday moments because you're going to look back and be like, wow, I was so confused in that season, but I showed up anyway. There's a lot of people who you can scroll through my Instagram and you won't know the times where I was battling depression and I was just so confused and so unsure. I talk about it later on, but in those moments, I show up anyway because I'm like, someone needs me. I'm like, Glow, I don't feel it today, but someone else needs it. And like, again, daily, I recognize my privileges. Daily, I recognize my blessings. And I'm like, there's someone else who's probably going to be in bed when they're watching my video and I'm talking to them about purpose. They're going to need this. So I'm going to record the video. And then I don't care that I don't sound, like a woman. I need to really stop joking about that. Maybe my next therapist appointment, I need to unpack that. Okay, number 4, affirming consumption. Now this is on the extreme side, but I created a second Instagram account to follow friends because on my main page, I only want to see personal development, business strategy, entrepreneurship, positivity. And I notice like I love my friends, but if they're posting junk, I'm missing the stuff that I actually need to see. So I had to create, if you notice, Brendan only follows like 100 people. He knows what he's doing. He's got to keep the noise out. Social media is a very loud place. And if the stuff that you actually want to see is drowned underneath everyone else's like pictures of food, I don't know, baby announcements, congratulations. I'm happy for you, but I'll congratulate you from my other page, because if I have 15 minutes to scroll on Instagram every day, I need to get the best of the best. I want to make sure I'm getting affirming consumption. And the last thing, affirming rest. How can you be confident when you're always in a hurry, always overwhelmed, always triggered, always stressed? Okay. 7 hours is like my minimum. 8 is my standard, but I need 7. And there's different like sleep devices. You can have like a Galaxy Watch or an Apple Watch that can track your sleep hours and your REM cycle, your deep sleep, your light sleep. And again, to any new mothers, you guys are in a different ballpark, and I'm sorry, and I hope your baby starts sleeping soon. I know like new parenthood is a different story, but when you can get to that place of like, maybe it's sacrificing an hour of Netflix to go to bed an hour earlier. I set my phone every day, and it's automatic now because I've trained my phone to do this. And 8 p.m. to 8 a.m., I am unreachable. No one can access me from 8, like literally my phone goes on do not disturb, meaning that calls get blocked. If someone tries to call me after 8 p.m. or before 8 a.m., it won't even go through. It'll just say this user is not accepting calls right now. They got a text or send an email. Actually, text messages can't even get through until I've turned off do not disturb. And what's great about that is it allows me 12 uninterrupted hours to focus on me, to like start winding down for the day, to start preparing for the day, like having my morning routine and like saying affirmations to myself, journaling, working through like, okay, what is my plan for the day? High performance planner, wink, wink, you know, giving myself time to like fill out all of those prompts and schedule my day accordingly. Literally, the world could be on fire. I won't know until 8 a.m. Sorry, I won't know until I turn my phone on and I tune in. And that's a boundary I set for myself to help me affirm my rest. So again, affirming activities, affirming friends, affirming documentation, affirming consumption, and affirming rest. So today's message is going to be about advanced mindset and resiliency. I traveled for 7 years. That was my career in my 20s. I was a travel blogger. And I remember when I was in Montenegro. Montenegro's in Europe. It's in the Balkans. It's a beautiful country, probably top 5 for me. And I was walking and I was just exploring. And I remember I was getting those peculiar stares. I was used to the stares. You know, I'm a solo Black woman. I get it. I'm in a country that doesn't have many Black people. There were those stares, but this stare was different. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to keep on going with it. Little did I know that, well, Europe, number one, is a very big tennis continent. You have Djokovic, Nadal, Federer, all came from Europe, and they're massive global tennis stars. And little did I know, I resembled Serena Williams. And so the stares weren't about like, oh, it's just another Black woman. It was like, oh, we have this American tennis star in our country. All of these people thought I was Serena Williams, and they were trying to get my autograph. And I didn't know this about celebrities, but when they travel, a lot of times they don't want to be bothered, so they use an alias name. And I was like, no, I'm Glow. I'm not Serena. No, Glow, please, Serena Williams. And they were begging me and telling me that, no, we know that you're Serena. Please just, take a picture with us. And it was so funny. But I was like, I was literally trying to outrun the paparazzi. And I got back to my hostel, and I go out to dinner later on. And there's this one Russian man who was still able to track my whereabouts. And, as I say this out loud, it sounds a little bit creepy, but it was genuine. He had kids that loved Serena Williams. And so he said, Savina, please, for my kids. Savina, please, for my kids. And so what did I do? Got my pen, signed Serena with a smiley face, and let him on his way. That is resilience. Not the kind that we're going to talk about, but it's resilience nonetheless. And I want to talk to you guys about how when there's something that you want, no matter the circumstances, you will find a way to get it. That's entrepreneurship. That's life. But advanced mindset, I want to break down an acronym here because advanced mindset, it comes down to your mind. So I want you guys to write out MIND, and we're going to break down a mind framework that's going to help you have a more advanced mindset. The first one, M, mission, a mission that can change the world. A lot of us are still operating from a very selfish place. And I speak from experience. When I was travel blogging, all I wanted to do was travel the world and get paid. So some of you guys have to understand, like, what is it about your skill set, your career, or your industry that you can attach to a greater cause? Maybe because of personal experience or overcome trauma. Think about it. If you're a nutritionist that overcame a disease, how can you now teach on holistic wellness? okay? If you're a business coach maybe who overcame poverty, how can you now attach socioeconomic issues as a part of your branding, as a part of your messaging? Take your own personal story and attach it to a larger mission, because that's what's going to make you stand out as a leader, make you stand out as an entrepreneur, and just make you stand out in your industry in general. Intuition to speak up when it matters. Leadership is easy when things are going well. It's easy to be a leader when you don't have to actually lead on hard stuff, okay? And I was like, ooh. And I found myself like really having to feel convicted about what leadership means, and that intuition to speak up when it matters most. Because sometimes controversy is necessary in a teaching moment. Figuring out how to take something that could be controversial and turning it into a teaching moment. Every single thing that I post, you'll never find, my page is not about drama. My teaching style, my education style, nothing is about drama or gossip or hatred. That's not where I come from. It's lessons, it's learning, it's teaching. Because that's intuition as a leader. Like, okay, this needs to be spoken about. How can I speak about it in a way that no one else has covered? With grace, compassion, with light, okay? Intuition is having the ability to recognize a moment that can set your core values apart from everyone else. It is easy to do what everyone else is doing. It is easy to speak like everyone else is speaking. The hard thing is to pause and to reflect. And when you're about to speak out on something, how can you do that inner work of saying, okay, can I see myself in this situation? Have I done something like this before? Okay. The next one, N, nuanced navigation. And it's funny because I was like, what is nuance? We use it a lot of times, but we use words sometimes and we're like, wait, what's the actual textbook definition of nuance? Nuance is a subtle difference, a subtle change of expression, okay? And a lot of times you're going to navigate through life not always needing to go with the flow of the world. And whether your business mission is to change the face of education, maybe your business mission is to change the face of marketing, again, because your advanced mindset is going to be more forward thinking. There's going to be a larger cause that you've got to attach your branding to. But you have to have nuance in your teaching, in your decision making, in your integrity, in your values. You have to be able to recognize what's for you and what's not. Okay, don't chase things. Attract them by the way you show up. Don't chase after things. Attract them by the way you're showing up in the world, okay? I think a lot of times, especially as a beginning entrepreneur in my 20s, I was still so hungry to fit in, hungry for purpose, hungry for finances because I was broke, trying to figure out like, where do I go? And your navigation, your GPS system has to have nuance. If you are going the direction of everyone else, you might not be doing it right. You might not be doing it right because leadership is going to take you to pause. It's going to force you to slow down. It's going to force you to detour sometimes. It's going to force you to put something in reverse, put the whole vehicle in reverse and say, okay, I went down this path because I saw everyone else doing it, but maybe this isn't actually where I'm supposed to be going. Okay, nuanced navigation. There should always be a subtle difference in the way you're speaking up, in the way you're showing up, in the way you're leading, in the way you're educating, in the way you're providing, in the way you're serving. There should always be nuance, okay? And then D, diligent. You want to be careful, conscious, and committed to your work. It is so easy to let the glitz and glam of success and life just overwhelm you and make you feel like everything you've done was on your own goodwill, okay? You have to be careful, conscious, and committed, not just to your work, but to the mission and staying connected to the community that you're trying to help. And you do this by dedicating yourself to a cause that is greater than yourself. And I remember I was, I think 27, I was in Jamaica the first time my blog hit 6 figures. And that was, up until that point, that was my only goal. I wanted to get paid to travel. I wanted to have a 6-figure blog. Once I get there, I'm rich, woo! I think my first year as a full-time travel blogger, I made $7,000 the entire year So the idea of a six-figure blog was so out of reach that I was like, if I can get there, maybe one day if I get lucky, I was like, oh, I'll just kind of stop, like, because that's all I need. And what happened when I reached 100K? Spiraled, went into a 3-week episode of depression. Because when you put so much value on money and not your core values, not your integrity, not a mission, you lose yourself. I was so, that moment of a six-figure blog, I put so much weight in that. I didn't know what I needed to feel, but when I got there, I didn't feel anything. I was expecting, like, maybe my shower was going to feel different. Maybe glitter would like pop under my balloons or pop under my pillows. Balloons would come from the sky. Like, where is my party? Like, I've had this goal. Where's the celebration? Didn't feel anything. In fact, I regressed. I felt, I stopped reading. I stopped praying. I stopped reading my devotional. I lost sight of myself. And so it's so important. Have financial goals, but my goodness, have a mission first. Have a mission first. It is an honor to be with you all today. And again, for another exciting training. Whether you're in a relationship or single, I want you to remember and understand that the most important relationship you'll ever have in this life is the one with yourself. You are going to spend more time with yourself than anyone else in the world. You might be laying down next to someone when you go to bed, but you are dreaming by yourself. You can't bring someone else into your dream. Okay. And even on my journey, I'm from a family of 8, 2 Nigerian immigrant parents, and grew up in a really crowded home. All I craved was freedom. And I felt like because I shared everything, all of my clothes were hand-me-down, everything about my life I had to share. All I wanted to do was be free and learn about myself. And so some of you know about my travel background. I've been to 87 countries, around 6 continents. 90% of those travels have been solo. And it's amazing because even though I was traveling to all these places, the biggest journey that I was connecting was head to heart and passion to purpose. Traveling all these places, but I was getting closer to myself. And the most beautiful thing about these trips were I was getting to know myself on a deeper level and allowing myself the permission to figure out, how do I want to be loved? How do I want to show up in this world? What is my relationship with myself? Do I even love myself? I'm going to take you through something that I've done over the years to help me love myself even deeper. Because how many of y'all know when you love yourself even more, you can love other people better? When you have more self-love and compassion for yourself, you show up better for other people. And that's what it's about, okay? There's a cliche that says, you show people how to love you by the way you love yourself. And the people that are seeing the way you love yourself, maybe they're like, oh, well, we see that she doesn't, respect herself in this way, so we can go ahead and just take advantage of her in that way. And there's always this elevator analogy that I think of. When you're getting on an elevator, let's say it's with a friend that you've known for over a decade, you get on that elevator and you click the penthouse. You're ready to go to the top. You are on this journey. You are going to the top of the elevator. Your friend gets on the same elevator, but they click floor 9. Now, when floor 9 happens, a lot of times your friend will get off the elevator and they'll have this expectation that, hey, we've been through 9 floors together. Come off on floor 9 with me. But you've already decided that you're going to the penthouse even before they came on. And it is up to you to love yourself enough to say, hey, friend, I love you. This is your stop, but I'm going to stay on the elevator and keep going. Because I know my journey is deeper than this. I'm hungry. I know I was made for more. I know I deserve more, and I'm ready to keep going. Okay, so S, setting boundaries with people who aren't growing with you. Eat alone every now and then. Get dressed up and take yourself out. Okay, tell your partner to watch the kids, tell someone to babysit, but I need you to take yourself out to eat, because you would be surprised how much you'll learn about yourself by how uncomfortable you are with sitting alone. People will judge you, people will stare, people will ask if you're waiting for someone. And again, because I've traveled to so many places and I've eaten alone so many times, I always remember the question that I get asked, and it always made me feel some type of way. But I would be at a restaurant and I'd be table for 1, please. And they would say, oh, just one. and they would cock their head and they would look a little bit like pitiful, like, oh, just one. And I'm like, yes. And I would order a bottle of champagne and I would be all dolled up. I was like, it is a celebration of self. I'm celebrating life. I am celebrating that I'm still breathing, that I have an opportunity to chase my dreams every single day. So yes, just one. Thank you very much. But what I also learned is when I was eating alone is that I was also more approachable. Oftentimes when you go out to eat with someone, you're focused on them, as you should be. You all are in deep conversation. Maybe it's one person or it's with a circle of friends. But when you're by alone, when you're by yourself, you almost become an enigma. People are like, let me go introduce myself. Let me go talk to her. Let's swap stories. And especially, this was so important, especially when I was in other countries where I didn't speak the local language. I didn't know the traditions. I was still learning, taking notes for whatever articles or assignments I was in that country for. So it was an amazing way to also do research on the country, because people were like, oh, well, this person, she's not from here. Let me go talk to her and see what her story is. And you get to meet some of the most fascinating people. Feel free to bring a book. Feel free to bring your journal. Feel free to do something that occupies your time so you're not just, sitting there. But oh my goodness, I challenge and encourage you all to eat alone at least once a month. Take yourself out, get dressed up, and just treat yourself, because it is beautiful. I love it. Let people know your love language. Now, if you're not familiar, I think everyone is familiar with Gary Chapman's 5 Love Languages book. We have words of affirmation, acts of service, gift giving or gift receiving, quality time, and physical touch. So many of us, a lot of times we struggle with relationships with ourselves, with others, with family, is because they don't know how to love us in the way we want to receive love. And for a lot of my friends, they thought words of affirmation was my love language. They were giving me all of this affirmation. They were encouraging me. They were loving on me verbally. And they didn't know that that was actually a trigger for me. It was actually very uncomfortable. Again, growing up in a Nigerian home, we didn't get compliments. We were never told, I love you, I'm proud of you, good job. That just wasn't language in our home. So when people told that to me as an adult, I was so uncomfortable with it. I was like, this is not, no, please. And I had to learn that, like, okay, Glow, people don't know this. Like, let them know that acts of service is the way that you want to be loved. Like, you got to be clear with the way that you want to receive and give love. My favorite way to give love is gifts. I love just pouring into people and just showering them with presents and quality time. But the way I like to receive love is actually acts of service, because I'm a very servant-driven leader. I'm constantly serving other people. And when you're always serving others, who's going to serve you? That's why acts of service is my favorite love language. That's the way I like to be loved. And I had a lot of awkward conversations and awkward encounters with friends, because even though they were affirming me so much with words of affirmation, every time I needed them, they wouldn't show up. And I realized, like, what is this disconnect? Like, I need to let them know that if they actually want to show that they love me, they need to be, acts of service. When I say that I need them, like, I need them to show up. And that for me was huge. Learn your love language, and then also let people know your love language. Free yourself from people pleasing. I'm currently reading a book by Oprah, her latest one by Oprah and Dr. Bruce Perry, What Happened to You? And my goodness, this book is heavy. It really talks about all the biological changes and shifts that happen due to childhood trauma that manifest in our adult lives. So many of us think, well, if it happened 20 years ago, I'm fine, I'm over it. But it's like our brains are literally biologically transformed by things that have happened to us in our childhood. And reading this book has been so just freeing for me, because a lot of times the people who struggle the most with people pleasing are the ones who were constantly criticized in the homes that they grew up in. And I remember it was like, I was a pastor's daughter. So everything was like, not enough, not doing well enough. And I held on to that. And so I grew up feeling like, oh my gosh, the only way to get love from people is to make sure I never make them upset. And so I avoided conflict. I avoided conversation. I avoided any type of confrontation that might potentially lead to someone being upset, and that is not healthy. My goodness, Brene Brown says it perfectly. Clear is kind. When you are clear about what is and isn't okay, that is kind. It's It's an act of kindness to yourself and to other people. No ambiguity. There's no room for ambiguity on this journey of self-love, okay? So being direct with people, they might have been able to get away with taking advantage of you in the past, but let them know this new you no longer tolerates that. Friendship, tough stuff. Because when we look at all the friends that we've had in our life, they can be life-giving, exhilarating, healing. And then you look at the other side, which is the majority of my history. They can be exhausting and toxic and life-sucking. And I was always like, what's wrong with me? Why do I attract leeches? Why am I attracting such negative people? Like, what am I doing wrong that I can't find the type of friends that I need to grow, to heal, to be a better person? Because everyone's heard the quote, you're the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with most. And I fully believe that. So we are so quick to give someone the friend title. Oh, that's my friend. But you met them 10 minutes ago. How do you know they're your friend? What have they done to prove that they deserve a spot in your life? Like a valuable spot in your life. We're so quick to label people as friends. There's a spectrum. There is a spectrum. Instead of oscillating between stranger and friend, like there's other words that you can use, other things that you can call people so that you don't feel that weight and that pressure. So the very first type of friend, we're going to call her Jealous Julia. Jealous Julia. Can anyone relate to having a jealous Julia in your life? You just felt jealous energy from them. Jealousy is such a weird emotion because even though it might be it's a bad emotion, but it doesn't make someone a bad person. I could always recognize, oh my goodness, their jealousy is so heavy, it makes it hard to want to be around them. When I think of the jealous Julia in my life, I spent 8 years as a travel blogger. So I was solo traveling for most of my 20s, from 22 to 29. I was just traveling around the world, living out of a suitcase, actually 4 very overweight suitcases. And it was an amazing life. I was building my brand as a travel blogger, telling stories of other countries, and also the story of myself, becoming of age and realizing who I wanted to be and what I wanted to do in my adulthood. But I remember having other travel bloggers that I would meet and network with and find on my journey. And of course, I'm a naturally giving person. I'm an Enneagram 7. Does anyone know their Enneagram numbers? 7s are enthusiasts. We're scatterbrained, but we're also really fun. We're excitable, we're happy, we're joyful, we're charming, we're kind, we're generous, but there's also some other qualities, but this is not the purpose of this call. We have a lot of great qualities about us. And so it makes it very easy to be friends with us. But my goodness, even though someone wants to be my friend, doesn't mean I have to be theirs. And what I started doing as a travel blogger, meeting all of these people, I was like, okay, well, they want to be my friend. So let me force myself to be their friend. I'm just going to find a way to make this work, even though I felt this really jealous energy constantly. Jealousy of and things that I didn't even think that I had correct. I was still finding my voice. I was still figuring out what I wanted to do. But even to the point, and this woman, the Julia, because we're going to use hypothetical names here, but Julia was a gorgeous person, physically gorgeous. But every time I was around her, I would dress myself down because I recognized, I can tell that she feels bad. If more guys are looking at me when we're out together, I know that she starts to get jealous of that. So let me down dress, literally dress like a bum when I'm around her. How toxic is that? How, I look back on that, I'm like, Glow, why? Why did you do that? Sometimes, and many of you have such a big heart that you can recognize the toxicity in someone else and you change yourself to accommodate their jealousy. And that's what I did. And I was suppressing and dimming my light and shutting down parts of me that made me literally glow. And I was like, why am I doing this? It got to the point, it got so bad because, she was also in this industry and also trying to make a name for herself as a travel blogger. She started stealing my content, and now we're getting into intellectual property. I would write a blog post and I would post it, and then she would copy it word for word and change the title. She didn't think, because I wasn't actively reading her blog, she thought I would just never find out. And other bloggers had to literally forward me the link and say, why is this person stealing your words? And I was like, what is going on here? And all this time, I'm letting you in. I'm giving you resources. I'm giving you my energy, giving you my time. The most valuable, non-renewable resource that we all have is time. Money spends once. Time, you can't get that back. Okay. So I'm like, I've given this person so much, and this is how they're treating me. Why am I keeping them in my life? And I also recognized that, how do I have this conversation where I call them out on what they're doing and then let them go? And one thing that I was realizing is that sometimes when someone is so toxic for you, you don't have to pinpoint their toxicity in the separation. And so again, and this is what it takes to be a leader, these communication skills. I could have been like, you know what, you are toxic, but that's not what I did. I was like, you know what, in this next season of my life, I'm just focusing on myself. And I just need a little bit of space. And, I'm working on this. And I named a couple projects that I was working on, but I made it about me. Because in life, not every lesson that people need to learn needs to come from you. Let someone else teach that lesson of like your jealousy and the way it comes off. That's not my lesson to teach. Life will give you that lesson in the way that it's meant to. But you can't be everyone's teacher. And not everyone is ready to learn from you in the way that you want to teach or serve them. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to let this person go, but I'm going to let them go with grace. Because at the end of the day, I have to live with my conscience. I don't want to go to bed knowing that like I popped off. Translation went off. Another translation was rude, yelled at someone. I don't want to have that, on my heart, that I just was really just rudely rejected someone. I still want them to feel whole. At the end of the day, they're human and we all have our flaws. So when I, removed them from my life, I made it about me, not about them. And you're going to get to situations in life where there's going to be a difference between removing someone and realigning them. Removal versus realignment. Because most people in your life that are your friends just need some realignment. Maybe they're in your inner circle, top 5, top 10. Anyone remember MySpace? We had the top 8. Like people would lose friendships because they weren't in your top 8. Like that was another period of time. But sometimes someone doesn't need complete removal from your life. Maybe they just need to be realigned and maybe pushed back to your top 50. But this person needed complete removal because I started to realize that this person isn't adding value to my life. And when I think about friendships and what we look for in friends, obviously some people start friendships out of a selfish pursuit because they're like, you know what, I need more positive people in my life. I know Glo's really positive, so I'm going to be her friend. You know that the number one DM I get, this is actually really interesting. I don't think I've shared this before. The number one DM I get, Glo, I love your energy. I want to be your friend. What do I do with that? And here's the thing, I appreciate and I am so grateful that people can see that energy and that they want to be around me. But one thing that also shows me is that friendship is a selfish pursuit. I see someone's light, I want to just attach. You know who else is attracted to light? Leeches, mosquitoes, bugs. You see my light, but you haven't given me the opportunity to see yours. Or what are you offering? What are you bringing to the table? It has to be this mutual, give and take. So those DMs, I always feel a bit awkward because I'm not honestly sure how to respond to that. And I know how I show up in this world. I know the light that I bring in this world. I know how to make people feel better about themselves when they're around me. Like that's a gift. And I love that gift and that discernment of energy and spirit. Like I love that I have that, but doesn't mean everyone deserves or is entitled to that light. Think about that. If you know you have a light and a positive energy about you, just because someone knows you doesn't mean they're entitled to that. You get to decide who you show up as your best self with. Welcome to another amazing day to grow. I don't know about you, but this year came and went. Whether 2021 was a good or bad year for you, it came and gone. And now it's time to get ready for 2022. what I love about October and what I love about just the way I look at the future. So finishing the year strong, I try to remember what I've been telling myself lately. And for many of you, you probably have a mantra that you don't even know about. And one of the mantras that I heard recently was by Florence Scovel Shinn. I do wonderful work in a wonderful way. I give wonderful service for wonderful pay. So when I think of finishing strong, I immediately go back to a story from my childhood. I was 12 years old. And does anybody remember having to do the timed mile? Like that was a part of our physical education. Depending on where you grew up, it sucked for us. We had to run a mile. I think it was once every month, and we had to continue to beat our mile time. And so Coach Peters, he didn't know that even though I was a chubby little something, you know, I had the cheeks, I love to eat my food. So I was a chubby little something, but I was quick. I was quick with my mouth and I was quick with my legs. And so I'm in this fourth lap of my mile and I'm like, oh, and I'm just in my mind, I'm like, oh, I'm getting this 7-minute mile. Like, I feel good. Like, this is it. Oh, good for me. And so once I finish the line, I slow down. And Coach Peters goes, what are you doing? You have one more lap. Get back out there and go. And I was like, no, this is my fourth lap. This is my fourth. He didn't realize that I could lap all of the skinny girls. He didn't think I was capable of running a 7-minute mile. And instead of let my pride and ego get me in that moment and say, no, Coach Peters, you could have watched me better. No. I was like, you know, I'm gonna run the fastest lap you have ever seen in your life. Probably not ever in his life. But I got back, I said, okay. And I sprinted that last lap. I had nothing in me, but I sprinted to show him what I was capable of doing. And when I ran my fifth lap, he said, wow. Wow, that's what finishing strong is. Even when there are people that are doubting you, even when there are people that don't believe in your capabilities, even when you know you've done the work, I challenge you and I encourage you to take that extra lap. There's this quote that says the most free space in the world is the extra mile. Like that's the most uncrowded place in the world is the extra mile. No one ever goes there to get what they want. So like Coach Peters, even though in that moment I was hurt and I was kind of a little bit like annoyed that he didn't believe in me, I believed in myself and I knew what I was capable of. And ever since then, for every mile that I ran, I said, Coach Peters, you're going to watch me, right? Coach Peters, please watch me. And when I would go around those laps, I would count out loud, 1, next lap, 2, so that by 4, there was no doubt that I ran a mile. Okay, finishing strong. Now, one thing that I recently shared and one thing that I hope will encourage all of you, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a 9-to-5, or whether you're just someone who wants to have more flow in your life, there are 4 seasons. I want everyone to write this down because this really freed me up. This freed me, it liberated me, and it allowed me to have less guilt around the way I was showing up in my life. So the first season that I want to talk about is winter. I hate winter. I'm from the Bay. I born and raised in California, grew up a little bit in Arizona, then went to college in Kansas, and then traveled around the world for 8 years. But winter season, if you stay in this season for too long, it can agitate you. But you know what my winter season is? That's my learning season. We are coming up on January. That is going to be your learning season. Ask yourself these questions. In my winter season for learning, what will I be investing in? Because even coaches need coaches. I know many of you are coaches, but coaches need coaches and leaders need to be led. What will you be reading? What skill sets will you be developing? What will you be learning for 2022? If you can start your winter season, your learning season with this approach, my goodness, you will have so much more focused energy because not every season is meant for you to constantly be learning and investing and thinking and all of that stuff, because there's going to be other seasons, which I'm going to talk about next. My spring season is for launching, okay? After you take those 3 months to learn and learn and learn, that spring season, I need all of you to think about what you're going to be launching in April. That could be an ebook, that could be a course, it could be a workshop, it could be a retreat, it could be whatever you want it to be, a masterclass. My goodness, we are living in the most beautiful era where we get to monetize our brains. We get to think of an idea, materialize it, and get paid for it. We are blessed to live in a season like this. So spring, what will you be launching? Who will you be serving? Who will you be reaching? Who do you want to be engaging with? Now, for many of you, you might be like me, where maybe your audience is filled with several categories of people. You got mothers, you've got vegans, you've got plant lovers, you got travel enthusiasts. And so you have these 4 different categories of people that follow you and maybe want to learn from you. It's like, oh, well, Glow, who do I serve? Who do I focus on? Who do I build a product for? Here's how I look at it. When you go to a party and you have those 4 categories of people, let's say there's influencers in one category, mommy bloggers in another category, coaches in another category, who are you most likely to hang out with? That's who you want to serve. Who are you drawn to energetically? Who do you most enjoy spending your time with, whether you're being paid for it or not? The reason I love to serve female entrepreneurs is because that's who I hang out with, whether there's a transaction made or not. I am a female entrepreneur. That's what I know. That's what I do. I've been blogging and telling my story on the internet for 20 years before the internet was cool. Can you imagine telling people you had a blog back in 2001? Like at that time, it was AOL and AOL. Everyone used the internet for email. And I was like, well, I have a little blog. Do you want to read my blog? And I started the blog because I didn't have friends at school. I was isolated by my differences. And I was like, okay, I have Nigerian parents, but I live in America. Who do I belong to? And so I would straddle this fence every day. Like, am I you or am I them? Where is my sense of belonging? And in that sense of, or in that isolation, it allowed me to be very observational. I was very introspective. And that's a blessing now because it makes me extremely empathetic. When people go through things, I'm like, oh, I've seen that. Oh, I've done that. Oh, I've been there. Okay. So what's something about your childhood or something about your past that you can now use as a part of your business or the way you serve other people? Okay. So launching, who do you want to serve? Who do you want to be around? The next season, of course, is the summer season. That's where most of us thrive. The summer season is all about rest and rejuvenation and resetting and refreshing your mind. Living. Summer is about living, okay? Learning in the winter, launching in the spring, living in the summer. It's not natural to constantly be grinding. We don't need to be grinding 24/7. And so I want more of us to honor the season of living, honor the season of rest, because if you are constantly on, you will burn out, and burnout will be inevitable, okay? And the last season, which we just had fall equinox a couple weeks ago. So the fall season, the current season that I'm in, and the current season that I want you all to be in as well, is listening. Listening. How can we better listen to the needs of our community? How are you putting yourself in a position to serve people without strings attached? How are you finding ways to just pour, just serve, just be present, just honor and reward and thank the people that have been with you all year? It's so important, because without feedback, without knowing what people are saying about you or your products or your services, how are you going to know how to come through in the next year? This listening season, October, November, and December, is literally setting you up for your launch season. If you do the listening season really well, your customers will literally tell you, I'm frustrated, I don't know what to do, I'm overwhelmed. They will give you language that you can literally use in your marketing copy to create and sell and build your next product. My definition of fulfillment, for me, it means to reach or exceed your potential with your integrity intact. So for those that don't know, for 9 years, I lived out of 4 suitcases, traveling 90 countries across 6 continents. It was the most exciting, crazy, exotic, wild, adventurous, and humbling journey I've ever taken. And before I started this journey, influencer marketing wasn't a thing. So before Brendan created an influencer brand and an influencer conference and summit, influencer marketing was kind of an idea and a concept before it became an industry. So when I was in my early 20s, I was like, okay, I've been on the internet at that point for 11 years. I was like right before the wave of Twitter and MySpace and Tumblr. And I knew I had this concept of digital storytelling. So I remember I was like, okay, I can build my brand showing people that I am influential, showing people that I can tell really good stories. And so I really like chased this idea of just like building a brand around myself. And I had my first six-figure blog year in 2016. And I remember watching the six-figure hit and I was like, okay, I was waiting for that moment. For me, six figures was like, that was like what it meant to be a millionaire. I remember just feeling like money was just so foreign to me, never grew up with much. So the idea of six figures was just like, wow, if I can reach that with my blog, I will be so rich. So when I reached it, I was like, why do I still feel empty? Why? What's missing? Where did I go wrong? Where is the glitter and the rainbows? Like I should be pissing gold. Like I had this whole different scenario of what a six-figure blog and a six-figure career would look like. And this was back in 2016. And because I didn't feel what I wanted to feel, I was like, this isn't it. And so I remember it took me actually probably 18 months, but in 2019, I remember I had 2 words of the year. And this is something that I highly recommend everybody should do. Create a word for every year. And this is just the word that drives your intention forward. So for me in 2019, my 2 words were surprise and service. I wanted to surprise myself with all the ways that I could serve others. I bent over backwards, creating programs and groups and cohorts and trips to aid people on their journeys and solve problems that I felt like I had the answers to. I all of a sudden was obsessed with curating community and making sure that no one felt alone on their journey, because I did. And I was like, how can I make sure no one experiences what I did? Feeling alone in your accomplishments, feeling alone in your pursuits, all of that. I was like, I have to find a way to just build community. And so prior to that, again, I was building my brand and building my business as like a selfish pursuit. It was exciting, but it wasn't fulfilling. Excitement is not fulfillment. Something was missing. So going into inner fulfillment first, the first thing that you should do to find inner fulfillment is lead a life with integrity. Because my goodness, when you lose your integrity, you have nothing left. And I remember there were moments on my journey where, oh, easy money here, or this person got away with doing that. Should I also do that because it built their brand fast? I always took the stairs. I see the elevator success, and as alluring as it can be, I was like, nope. Here is the emergency exit with the stairway, and that is where the lights are flashing. This is where I will go. Be comfortable taking the stairs when we live in a world of people looking for the elevator. The stairway to success will be longer, but it will be filled with so many more opportunities for you to develop your character and for you to build traits that are long-standing for the long run. Okay? Number 2, for finding inner fulfillment, commit to service-driven work. So like I mentioned, when I was starting off as a blogger and just as an influencer, everything was about me. How much money can I get paid to travel? How much money can I get paid to go here and to post this? It was a selfish pursuit. I didn't have any type of way of giving back to my community or helping them. So how can you add more service to your work, to your brand, and to your business? Commit to service-driven work. Number 3, do not compromise your values. If you are someone who does not, let's say, for example, drink, don't work with an alcohol brand. It feels very obvious, but this is actually a true story. Alcohol brands pay a lot of money. I think the top 3 industries as an influencer, the alcohol brands pay a lot of money, cars pay a lot of money, and fashion pays a lot of money. So if you are someone, you built a sober brand, like that is a value. That is something that's your lifestyle. Like don't compromise that just for quick money. And it takes away from feeling fulfilled when you're doing things just for the money. Okay. So do not compromise your values, no matter what they are. Number 4, love the skin you're in. It is such a fulfilling journey and such a fulfilling life when you are obsessed with yourself. No one can love you more than you. Not your kids, not your spouse, not your best friend, not even your parents. You have to love you more than anyone else in this world. And when you develop that self-love, that obsessive self-love, not to a narcissistic level, obsessive isn't a good word, but you are just like, man, I love my journey. I love my flaws. I love my mistakes. I love my growth. I love my commitment and dedication for more. Like there is so much to love about yourself. It's not about saying the perfect and idealistic version of me looks like this. And since I'm not there yet, I can't fully love myself. No, love yourself at every step of the journey. Before a baby knows how to walk, do you say, I'm gonna hold on my love until you're at least taking your first step? It's like you love a baby when it's crawling. You love a baby when it's pooping its pants. You love a baby at every step. So why can't you love yourself at every step too?
This can be your day for personal growth. This can be that day you committed to and you remember, you go, that was the day I got myself a community. I got better coaches. I committed to making my life the absolute best that I could. This is that day. Make today your growth day. Click the button on this page and sign up right now.